Okay, so going to get a coronavirus test now. I'm actually really nervous because I've heard it's painful. Had a symptom, maybe two, and just thought I would check to be safe. Also had a family member who got tested earlier today. So we will see. This looks like it's out of a horror film. Just me.
Okay, then turn towards me.
Okay.
I'm going to swab both of your nostrils.
Okay.
Is that it?
Thank you.
Hey, it didn't look like it went that far up your nose.
Ah, it hurt though.
It did?
The right side hurt.
Oh no.
It hurts for like 5 seconds. The right side.
Is it like pretty painful?
It's like pretty painful, but it's not like that bad. It definitely makes your eyes water. Now I'm like scared to get the results though.
안녕하세요, 하이채드입니다. I have very good news. Just got my test results back and I do not have coronavirus. Obviously very relieved, very happy. It was a very stressful few days, kind of just waiting to hear back, not knowing if I had it or if I didn't. Also, 2 of my family members who got tested were both negative, so that's very good news all around. My symptoms were very minor. My 2 family members who got tested had much more serious symptoms than I did, but overall coronavirus is just kind of such a disaster here now in the United States that I felt like it would be a good choice to be tested. I think everybody in the US at this point probably knows somebody who's gotten coronavirus. I myself know a few people who have tested positive for it, but that brings me to the next part of the video, which is kind of talking about the differences between Korea and America with coronavirus and the reason why I think Korea is handling coronavirus so much better than the United States, and it might not be the reason that you expect. So I've seen a few comments online recently talking about how Korea and America actually detected the first case of coronavirus on the very same day, but the difference between that time has been really quite dramatic. So this guy has posted some statistics about coronavirus in Korea versus the United States. This is the coronavirus death stats per 100,000 people of population. So in the US, nearly 44 people. Korea, it's less than 1 person. Total deaths, 143,000 here. South Korea, 298. So basically what this is saying is that if we were able to handle coronavirus as well as Korea had, we would only have 2,000 deaths. Instead, we have 144,000 deaths. Another post by somebody on Twitter just outlining the comparison of coronavirus cases, 4 million to about 14,000. This is as of July 24th. 4 million cases now. I think we have roughly 25% of the coronavirus cases in the world. So another comment from someone on Twitter commenting about how the Korean baseball organization has been able to have roughly 65 to 70 games so far, and they've had no issues with coronavirus. But here in the United States, we've had just a few baseball games so far, and there's already been a huge issue in Florida where they've had to shut down one team. We don't know what's going to happen. Potentially could get a lot worse. So that's kind of been the consensus online of people's thoughts here. I've talked about it in other videos, but basically in comparison to Korea, the United States is handling coronavirus very, very poorly. So the question is why? Why is Korea doing so well with coronavirus and why is the United States doing so poorly? So in my opinion, the biggest and most important reason basically comes down to culture. In Korean culture, you have a strong emphasis on collectivism. And in American culture, there's a strong emphasis on individualism. So basically from a young age in America, as kids all the way through elementary school, we're taught, be yourself, be an individual. I remember all through school hearing things like emphasizing how unique we are as individuals and how we're our own person. And there's always been a big emphasis on freedoms. Everybody in America is very, very protective of their individual freedoms. And that's not to say that individualism is a bad thing. I think it's actually a good thing to be unique and be yourself. But when you compare that to Korea, when much more of the teaching from a young age is about living together in a society, being a good citizen, being a good neighbor, and being a good family member, and so on. I think in Korea there's much more of a focus of being part of the community than maybe there is in America. I realize that culture is a much more complicated situation. It's not as simple as just saying, well, collectivism is good or individualism is bad. I'm sure that there's probably a lot of positives and negatives to both collectivist and individualist mindsets, but I think when it comes to coronavirus and in terms of Korea's collectivist culture and focus on caring about your neighbor, being mindful and considerate of other people, I think that that is the biggest reason that Korea is having so much success and America is having so little success against coronavirus right now. Because in America, this individualistic attitude has turned to one of selfishness and not caring about anybody but themselves. I don't know if you guys have seen in the news, but a big thing lately has been people really freaking out about masks, not wanting to wear masks. These people are so focused on themselves and what's slightly uncomfortable for them that they don't want to wear a mask in order to protect other people who live in their community. I've seen countless meltdown videos in the news of crazy people at grocery stores or other public places refusing to wear masks and making big scenes, and I feel like I've never seen anything like that in Korea, and I never would.
So it's required in hospitals unless you have a medical reason. Can I get you a chair?
Yeah, no problem.
You sure? Okay. We can stand off to the side somewhere, yeah.
This over. This over.
No, no. Dude, why? Why?
When I first went to Korea and I saw people wear masks, I was a little bit confused because it's something we never see here. But then I learned that it's like, hey, somebody wears a mask if they're feeling sick, amongst other reasons. And I was like, that is so cool that people in Korea care enough about people that they don't know that they're taking this precaution. And now that we're in the midst of this terrible pandemic, Americans can't even wear masks just for a few months because they're too selfish. So I really think it's ingrained in Korean culture to be good citizens, to be good neighbors, to be a good person in your community. And that to me has to be the biggest reason why Korea has been so successful fighting against coronavirus. I know it's not perfect. I know that there's still case counts in Korea, but in comparison, Korea is looking very, very, very good. So a couple of weeks ago, I was going for a walk near my house. There's a park that I like to walk around. It's nice to be out in nature and not be close to people. And as I'm walking to the park, all of a sudden I see a ton of people and I'm like, oh my gosh, what is going on here? And there is a full-blown concert going on at the park by my house with food trucks, families, people of all ages, nobody social distancing, nobody wearing masks. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my gosh, how can the government allow this to happen? So when I got home, I look into it. I find out that this concert, this event, is actually put on by the city where I live. And it just seems to me that people don't want to be inconvenienced by coronavirus and they don't want to change their normal lives, even if that means helping their neighbors. And not everybody is like this here. I think it's probably just some people. But when you see things like this, it's very clear why we're struggling so much with coronavirus. There was a really cool article I read a day ago in Time magazine. It's entitled "Elite South Korean Contact Tracers Show the World How to Beat COVID-19." And again, that's the consensus that I've seen online, is that Korea has really shown the way for the rest of the world to successfully beat and combat COVID-19. The article talks about how Korea has an elite team of epidemiologists, statisticians, laboratory technicians, and how quickly Korea has moved in the face of coronavirus, but also how there has been a consensus from the Korean people and be willing to trust the professionals in what they're doing and really just get on board with everything. And I read this article and I'm thinking, we are so far away from something like this in America. We're not even close. And of course, there's a lot of reasons that go into this. Korea has dealt with other potential epidemics before. SARS, other issues. Korea has been very well prepared for this. But that being said, we can't even agree in America if masks are helpful or not. Even our government can't agree on a proper direction to go forward. So there's no way right now that the United States would be able to even implement the advanced programs that Korea has in place right now. There's just no way. From my perspective, having a lot of connection to Korea and being pretty well informed of what's going on there, it's been really disappointing for me to see what's going on right now in the United States. Because I think unnecessarily a lot of people are dying because simply we're just not handling it well. And I do think this is in large part due to cultural differences between Korea and the United States. I'm just really happy that I've tested negative for coronavirus, that I'm healthy, that my family's healthy, and so hopefully it stays that way. But I'm hopeful that life can return to normal soon and that everybody can get back to their regular lives. I hope that everybody is safe where you're watching from and healthy, and that all your family members are doing well. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.